Welcome to The Age Hack, a longevity lifestyle podcast. As always, I'm here with the lovely Fiona.
Good to see you.
Be sure to check out The Age Hack online. You can find us at IG at @theagehack_pod. Send us a DM if you're a longevity lover with ideas or just enjoying the show. So, Fee, today we have a great episode, but we always say that. We're chatting about Bryan Johnson, but we always say that, and his beautiful head of hair, as well as everybody's favourite human being, David Attenborough. Let's go.
Love it. So, Paul, recently you went to a place called the Rec Lab, I believe.
Yes, I did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. So, and as I understand it, it's hot saunas, cold plunges. Is that right?
Yeah. So they have a steam room, which I don't think was in operation when I went, but we have 2 cold pools and they're quite large actually. I think they'd probably be 2.5 metres by 4 metres and they sit around 4 or 5 degrees all the time.
How cold are we talking? 4 or 5? That's cold.
Very cold. It was very cold. And then they also had jets as well. So when you go into a cold plunge, the water immediately around you, because the water's not moving around and you usually stay really still, it slightly heats up. So you get this sort of slight bubble around
layer.
you. Yeah. When you stand next to a jet, it's pushing that warm water off you all the time. So it had some jets in. There was also a sauna that sat around 85 degrees, pushing 90 it could, I believe. And then a hot pool that I think was 38 to 40-ish degrees as well. So you would go in a group and they would all just sort of circle through.
Yeah.
And you'd book an hour.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. How long were you there for, and then what's your system? Do you start off with the cold? Do you go straight for the hot?
Well, I went with a friend and I'd never been before, so I just sort of followed what he did. But he started in the sauna and the universal time is around 15 minutes. You can see a lot of benefit from that 12 to 14 minute mark.
Finnish sauna, I'm guessing, like a traditional sauna, because it was 85 to 90 degrees, you said.
Yes, so it was actually hot. It wasn't infrared. So, 15 minutes pushes just a little bit past the benefit, which is a good thing too as well. So it builds a bit of resilience and you still get all the benefits.
Yeah.
Then we jumped into the cold pool, which was actually I found quite funny because my friend had been going for months and he could just squeeze out 5 minutes, but he couldn't stand next to the jet and he couldn't put his hands in.
5 minutes at 5 degrees.
Yeah, that's right. And that seems to be where the results come as well. So you might have all heard of it before, but if you're at 1 degree, you go for 1 minute to get the benefit. 2 degrees, 2 minutes, etc.
Because I've definitely heard of 15 at 15.
Exactly, and it sort of goes back. You reduce the temperature, you reduce the time by a minute. So he had to stand up, so he couldn't get too low, and he couldn't put his hands in for longer than 20 seconds, and then he'd start to scream in pain, and so he was giving me all the warnings and all that, and I went in, I sat on the jet, up to my neck, hands in for 5 minutes, and he was just looking at me like, what the hell are you doing?
Just ice cold.
Just ice cold.
Ice cold.
Yeah. So how many people do this, like 5 minutes on the jets? He said, I've never seen anyone in months and months do that.
Wow.
So I've practiced with cold showers and getting uncomfortable. But
you also maximum
effort, yeah.
Yeah.
But I must admit, so we left that and then we did another 10 minutes in the hot pool.
That would have felt like heaven.
Well, it would, right?
Yeah.
But as I went into the hot pool, my friend was saying, how good does that feel? And I just had to say, mate, I can't feel anything. He's like, what? You can't feel a thing? I said, I couldn't even feel the warmth. Everything was numb. It was just like the same as going into the cold pool. I felt nothing by the end. And then it took about 5 minutes for me to go, I think I'm starting to feel warm again.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if that was beneficial. It was maximum effort. That's my middle name.
Yeah. Is it kind of pricey to do?
It wasn't. I think it was something like $30-something. It was for an hour. You get a lot of benefits, turn on a lot of autophagy. You know, the body thinks, hey, look, if we stay at 5 degrees for too long, we're going to die. So it gets rid of all the bad stuff. It starts promoting more good stuff. Same with hot saunas. And you do it in a controlled environment like that, hot to cold, it has its other benefits as well. It's really beneficial.
I guess when you just look at it, it's, 4 to 5 times a week is the recommendation for saunaing, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so it gets a little bit pricey.
Well, it can, if you do that.
Yeah. And so your opinion between infrared and traditional saunas, obviously traditional saunas have got all of the research behind them. They're the ones that have been around for such a long time, and we know that they're really, really good for cardiovascular health, etc. What do you think's better?
It's actually really difficult. My straight up call is they're both as good as each other, but for slightly different reasons. So also one of the experts in longevity, Ben Greenfield, was asked this question as well, and he said, look, he wouldn't pick one over the other. They're both amazing for slightly different reasons.
I think as well, like if your goal is to do it 4 to 5 times a week, which is the the recommended amount, I would also say for me, I would prefer to do an infrared, because I do a traditional sauna at the moment, and I kind of try to do it 2 days in a row. And sometimes I find that with that 85-degree heat for 15 minutes, it's quite intense. You have to hydrate really, really well afterwards. And so maybe the infrared would be a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah. So I suppose if you're trying to build resilience, then maybe you could go the hardcore Finnish hot saunas.
Yeah.
You will sweat a little bit in an infrared sauna, let's be honest.
I find it kind of kicks in after about 20 minutes.
That's right. Yeah. So, and then the infrared sauna, you can stay in a bit longer to get some more benefits as well.
Yeah.
So again,
they're both great.
They're both great.
Yeah. And with the cold plunge, you said how many times a week do they recommend for that? I don't really know.
So people do it every day, just to build resilience. But 2 to 4 times per week is a good amount to get that autophagy as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of 5 degrees for 5 minutes. I think 15 for 15 minutes is what I've heard a lot of. And I find that's sort of what we were doing when we were in Queenstown, was about 15 degrees there, was it?
Yeah, so the lake is very clean in Queenstown. And if you've ever been to that New Zealand town, it's one of the most beautiful in the world.
It's incredible.
It's a big natural square.
And it's got Fergburger.
That's true as well. Let's talk about that for longevity. No, best burgers in the world, and it's not hype.
Not hype.
And so you've got this wraparound city around this square
beautiful
sort of lake.
Yeah.
So easy access. You just jump in the morning, and everyone's looking at you thinking you're crazy. And it can get down to 12 degrees, but we would spend 15 minutes.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, we did that every day. It's time, guys, to talk about our blue zone of the week. Hit us, Fiona. Where are we going this week?
So I thought we would go back to Costa Rica, to Nicoya.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Do you remember their average lifespan?
85 years.
Yep. 85 years. World average
is 73?
71.3.
71.3. Okay.
Yeah. So previously we talked about their diet, and we talked a little bit about their beans and the Gallo Pinto recipe, and I actually found out that in relation to the beans, it's actually one part of what they call the 3 sisters in Costa Rica. So it's beans, squash and corn. They're kind of like 3 staple crops and parts of their nutrition.
Right. 3 sisters. Okay.
Yeah, the 3 sisters. But what I actually wanted to chat about today was their approach to life, which is Plan de Vida. Which has the literal translation of life plan, but it's almost like a little bit deeper than that. It's sort of why I wake up every morning. What is my soul's purpose? It sounds really intense, I think, when you consider, my soul's purpose, it sounds like a big, scary thing. But from what I understand, it doesn't have to be that intensive. It's kind of, a little thing that you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm really looking forward to doing this, or really looking forward to doing that. And it's something that's reflected in other blue zones like Okinawa in Japan, and some people refer to it maybe as ikigai, and what people can bring to the world. And they'll even say that even if you're working in a factory or a manufacturing facility in Japan, working on tiny little parts and it's repetitive work, there's still great satisfaction to be found in that.
And what's your Plan de Vida, ikigai, soul's purpose? Big question. Let's tell our listeners.
I think it's a big question, but I think it's interesting to see that it's reflected across the blue zone. So obviously having a purpose and a reason to get up in the morning is something that is linked with longevity. For me personally, I think that doing this kind of thing with you is a big part of why I get up in the morning. And then I guess it's all of the other stuff that is nice that we have going on in our lives in terms of, our family, the travel that we do, providing good value through the good businesses that we operate and taking care of our team and that kind of thing. How about you in the hot seat?
Well, to me, I love supplementation and I love education around it as well. So if we can help people around that and they come back and they say, yes, I've got a great result and this has really helped me this way, or I've been using sups and nothing's happened and now we're getting amazing results, so I'm not wasting my money, etc. That's what I really enjoy.
Yeah. And why do you think that it's something that's so important as an aspect of longevity?
Supplementation or plan de vida?
Plan de vida, ikigai, having a purpose.
Oh, I thought we weren't talking about sups.
Okay, we'll get there.
I guess ikigai, plan de vida is pretty good. You need a reason to get up in the morning. And it's clinically shown when someone retires, their mortality rate skyrockets by over 8 times. So
age-related decline, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Age-related decline leading to mortality. So you need a purpose. And so I always say someone looking to retire, well, that's great and it's fine and you can perhaps maybe enjoy and relax, but make sure you've got something else outside of work that gets you up, whether you start a new hobby, you start art, start traveling, start playing tennis, something, that
keep
really
the brain engaged.
Keeps the brain engaged and gets you excited and ready to wake up in the morning. So I know that work might seem like a drag, but it gives people purpose. And so really important to have a plan de vida, and that is why. Yeah.
Do you think that it's purpose or do you think that it's routine in like the more important aspect of that? Because you mentioned like the study with retirement and age-related decline. Do you think that it's because they've lost purpose or do you think that it's because they've lost routine?
I think it's...
Or brain activity or...
Yes, I think that's, not so much routine, but the brain activity. So going to work will always present challenges.
Yeah. And
those challenges create new neural pathways and connections in the brain and stop the brain from declining. It's like exercising your brain. So... And also, work gives them a purpose. There's a reason for them to get up because people are counting on them. If they don't do the job, no one's doing the job. So those two things combined, I think it's hard to say one or the other. I think it's both.
Yeah, and I think it also, as well, just popped into my head, comes down to the energy behind it a little bit as well. So I don't know how much benefit there is to staying in a job that you're really not enjoying. But I think if you look at the aspect of responsibility and satisfaction and, connection with other people. And I think that all has a significant role to play as well.
And work can provide that, all of that, social interaction with workmates, challenges. And you're right, if it's super, super stressful and you hate waking up in the morning to go, that's not what we're talking about. But there'll always be challenges which might seem frustrating, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just like stressing the body in a sauna or an ice bath, a little bit of stress getting the brain to work, problem solving at work is not a bad thing either.
Yeah. And so do you think that there's even benefit to, say you're going to work and it's not necessarily your favorite job, but waking up in the morning and saying like, okay, well, what do I want to achieve today? Why am I going to go and do this thing? And kind of just linking it back into those positive aspects of responsibility and job satisfaction, doing a job well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can talk about that probably for hours as well. But I think that is really important. Linking it to positivity instead of negativity. It'll be a lot more enjoyable. You'll have a lot less stress hormones going through your body. And you'll definitely help with a longevity sense by not pumping out negative ingredients.
Yeah. And I think that it's the combination of that, like having some intentionality and awareness around why you're doing what you're doing, not just kind of going through it robotically or on auto, but also understanding that it doesn't have to be this grand, massive soul's purpose, because that can be intimidating, like, why am I here? And existential, but it can just be like, hey, like, I want to go to work and do my job really well. And I want to go to work and, connect with at least one other person and have a nice, friendly, doesn't have to be deep conversation or something like that, but just building, intentionality and not putting too much pressure on it. You can find joy in anything really.
And I think, we've talked a lot about science and supplements, but I think this is just as important. So I think it's a good topic to have talked about.
I think it is. I think it's really important, particularly when you see that it is reflected in multiple blue zones. This is something that there's a intentional focus on.
So guys, get a Nicoya, get a plan de Vida like the Nicoyans in Costa Rica.
That's it. And just before we move on from Costa Rica, I wanted to mention as well, this is a blue zone that's, I think all of the blue zones are special. I think that it's important that they're preserved and that they're taken care of. But Nicoya in particular has been the blue zone has been in significant decline. So the centenarian population has gone down quite a lot.
Right. Okay. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, they're kind of putting it down to the sedentary lifestyle and westernization of the diet. Maybe they're losing their three sisters, or, there's rates of obesity have increased and all this kind of stuff. But there is a few organizations that are working on conserving the blue zone and protecting those cultures that kind of developed this beautiful pocket of the world where people live really long, healthy lives. So there's one called Blue Zones Nicoya that sells some of the local products to support the blue zone. And then there's actually I believe they actually donate the proceeds from those products to the Nicoya Peninsula Blue Zone Association. And that association is all about conserving the blue zone in supporting the culture and the history. And they're actually kind of taking stories from like many of the people over 100 there, that they're kind of taking their wisdom and recording it,
bringing the old school back. I like it.
I just thought it's important to know that we need I think we need to protect these areas, because I think there's so much wisdom that we can take from them.
Absolutely.
So Paul, we're going to talk about Bryan Johnson and his amazing hair transformation. Did you know this was a thing?
No, this is something new.
So no hair transplant.
Okay.
But he had said on a post on X that he started to lose his hair and go grey in his late 20s.
Wow. And he's late 40s now.
Yeah.
And you couldn't pick it. Thick head of hair, lots of colour. Because we met him a month ago, as I'm sure our listeners know.
Yeah, we go on and on about it. Yeah, so that's exactly what he said. Now at 47, I've got a full head of hair and 70% of my grey is gone.
Amazing. There you go. Let's find this out. I'm starting to go a little bit grey in my early 40s.
I'll show you a quick picture.
How do we do this?
It's actually really impressive. So see if we can. That's the before there.
Yeah, there you go.
And then that's the after.
Wow. Okay, that actually looks like exactly the same location as well, and it doesn't look like he's aged since then as well.
Yeah, have a closer look at it.
So that was in his early 20s, and he looks younger on the right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we do this? Has he given the protocol?
He has given the protocol.
Oh, so excited.
So his number one tip was to start early.
Okay.
Which I guess you would agree with that?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you give time for the follicles to shrink in size, it's very hard to get them back. If you get in early when they might be losing hair, but they're still large follicles, then as long as you can get the nutrition and the blood flow back to the follicle, technically you should be able to grow it back.
So when you say shrink in size, what do you mean by that?
So the follicle, you would have seen photos before, but you've got a large bulb on the end that sits inside the skin.
I haven't seen photos before.
Right, okay.
So I'm interested in this.
So a large bulb will sit inside the skin in the dermis, and the hair will just simply come out of the bulb. When males in particular go through hereditary baldness, what happens is that large bulb starts shrinking in size. Yeah. And what causes that? Well, the major reason is dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. So it's an aggressive form of testosterone that males will produce. There'll be a little bit in females, but obviously mainly in males. And that seems to be created from an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. And people that are genetically predisposed will have more of this enzyme to convert to DHT typically, and that DHT will cause the bulb, so the hair follicle, to shrink in size. So once it starts shrinking, the hair quality starts thinning, it breaks more easily, might fray a bit more easily, but eventually that bubble gets so small it can't produce a hair to break through the dermis, and that's where baldness comes from. So you've got things to fix it medically, like...
And we'll get into some of that.
Okay, we're stopping now because I could talk about it for a while.
I think you can talk about it a little bit more when we get to it.
Sure.
But I think the one thing that I do know about hair loss and regrowing hair is it's not just about the nutrition, because I think a lot of people are focused on getting nutrients into the hair, biotin, silica, all these other maybe Chinese herbs to grow hair. But it's actually about blood flow as well. Yes. So it's all well and good to take the nutrients, but if they're not getting delivered via blood flow to the correct place, you're not actually going to see the result.
That's true.
So whether you get that blood flow through taking Chinese medicine that might help with circulation, or head massage, or red light therapy, these are all the ways to stimulate blood flow, right? Yeah,
the big one is also minoxidil. Is great at increasing blood flow.
And this is medicinal. So we'll chat. Medicinal. He does actually mention minoxidil in his protocol.
Sure.
So let's get stuck into that. But I think that's a really good intro as to, hair loss and what causes it. And
thanks for reining me back.
That's okay.
I could have been here all day.
No, we'll get you going. So we mentioned that to start early, because once the follicles are shrunk, it's harder to reactivate them.
Mm-hmm.
His second tip was to look at all aspects of your nutrition, and he said to start including protein, including a collagen peptide, which obviously collagen is really good for hair, skin and nails. It creates our connective tissue. Sufficient methionine, which I thought was interesting because I don't know too much about it. Methionine, cytine and lysine, in addition to taurine. Do you know much about those?
They're amino acids. So when you consume proteins or complete proteins will contain all the amino acids, including those leucine, isoleucine, valine, etc. There's many of them. And so getting adequate protein will typically deliver more of those 4 aminos into the blood.
And those 4 aminos are essential for the production of collagen, keratin and elastin.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, which make up healthy skin to deliver more nutrients as well as healthy hair.
He mentioned omega-3s. He actually said omega-3s for scalp circulation, which I thought was interesting. I know that I take omega-3s for my skincare because it helps with the oil flow under the skin. So it actually seems strange, but it actually helps to reduce acne and this kind of thing. So I'm assuming there's oil flow it's important to have healthy oil flow in your scalp as well.
Well, there are reports that it could be oil or sebum that causes hair loss in the first place.
So if you've got stagnant oil flow in your scalp, it could create kind of like a build-up that could not allow blood flow to the follicle. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, they're actually saying that the sebum feeds bacteria. So there might be bacteria around the hair follicle that... If we produce more dihydrotestosterone and increases our sebum production, that bacteria feeds on that sebum and will also destroy the follicle.
And so how does taking an omega-3 reduce that?
Healthy oils reducing inflammation. It'll also work as a slight blood thinner, which will allow for better circulation as well.
Okay.
So it works on a few different mechanisms.
Yeah, that's cool. He mentioned other key minerals, iron, selenium, biotin. And then he goes on to his next tip, which is to use a topical formula. So he uses a personalized formula, which has got minoxidil, cetirizine, lantanprost, dutasteride, melatonin, caffeine, tretinoin, vitamin D and vitamin E. Any insights on that?
Well, that is a compounding pharmacist or something, someone putting that together.
He based that on his genetics. So he's obviously has the money to do significant genetic testing and create a personalized oil.
Wow. Okay. Well, there was a company that was trying to combine dutasteride with minoxidil as a topical solution years ago. It never got off the ground, but it sounds like he's put that together with more.
What is the difference between minoxidil and dutasteride?
So minoxidil is typically the topical lotion to get more blood flow to the area. As you mentioned, you need blood flow to get the nutrition. It's all good to put the nutrition in. If it's not making it to the hair, it's not doing anything. So minoxidil is blood flow and it's topical. Dutasteride was created originally for enlarged prostates. So they found that when males produce testosterone, when the body says that's enough testosterone, we need to convert it into dihydrotestosterone. It produces an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. And that is what will grab testosterone and change it to dihydrotestosterone. Dihydrotestosterone is what will create that increase in sebum, which the bacteria feeds on and reduces the hair follicle. So by putting dutasteride into the minoxidil, it's absorbing through the scalp, directly hitting the sebum, stopping that conversion in the area of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone by whacking out 5-alpha reductase.
Okay, so minoxidil is, in layman's terms, minoxidil is for circulation.
Yes.
Dutasteride is to reduce DHT.
Yes.
Cool. He does say that 5% minoxidil is a solid budget alternative and will work for most people. Will be sufficient for most people as a topical formula.
That's right. And a lot of people will just take minoxidil and see a reversing in hair loss.
Yes. You don't have to do all this crazy genetic testing and custom formulas.
Just, and then some people will just see it'll stop. So they won't gain any more hair, but they won't lose any more hair. So the baseline, when you go to these advanced hair clinics that charge you a fortune, usually all they're going to get you is a bottle of minoxidil and something called finasteride, which is the earlier version of dutasteride. Dutasteride works on 2 mechanisms to reduce dihydrotestosterone. Finasteride only works on 1. So finasteride, again, it was originally given to people with prostate cancer or prostate enlargement because DHT causes that. And back in the day, they were turning around going, oh, this is great. Obviously, it's reducing the size of the prostate, but my hair's growing back. What's going on?
Yeah.
So that's how they discovered it.
Wow.
And usually it's a 5 milligram tablet. For hair loss, it's only 1 milligram. So most people will buy just a prostate-based one and cut it into 4 pieces.
Right.
And take a quarter of a tablet a day with minoxidil, and that's the treatment.
Cool. His 4th tip is red light therapy. So I've seen them been getting advertised them on my Instagram, these caps. They just look like a regular baseball cap and inside is full of red light. And you just watch TV and have this hat on. And he has said 6 minutes a day. They did a study that showed that 25 minutes every other day for a duration of 16 weeks resulted in a 39% increase in hair growth compared to placebo.
Amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
You need to be careful. You need to get one that's clinically trialled and tested because, you might find a hat that's nice and cheap with the lights in there. They've just put some normal LEDs. So you need to get the right ones.
Yeah, I will say that some of the ones that are coming up on Instagram are questionable.
Yeah, make sure it's got the backed research. But absolutely. And years ago, it used to just be, I believe, a comb. They'd run a comb through their hair just with some red lights in there.
But a lot easier to just pop a hat on and watch, half an hour of your favourite show while you've got that happening. I think what I'll do is I'll do a bit of research, see if I can find a really good quality one, and I'll pop it in the resources of the blog.
Right. Okay. Good idea. Let's check that out.
Of this episode. And then I think there was one more tip, or was that it? The final tip was oral minoxidil.
Interesting.
Yeah, he said 3.75 milligrams a day. He said he started with 2.5 milligrams evaluated for side effects. There was a study. Oral minoxidil 5 milligrams daily was found to have a similar efficacy to topical minoxidil after 24 weeks. It's generally considered safe at low doses but can have side effects, including excessive hair growth and headaches.
That's interesting because obviously topical minoxidil works directly on the area you apply it.
But he's also taking it orally.
He's also taking it orally. So does that make him more hairy all over? I've never heard that before. Interesting.
Yeah. So that was the protocol. We said start early, add in the nutritional supplements, protein, omega-3s, some key vitamins and minerals. And then you had the topical formulation, the red light therapy, and the oral medication.
Right. There you go, guys. We'll put it in our assets so you can check it out.
Yeah, I'll include links to some of the studies and a bit more information. But that's Bryan Johnson's Luscious Locks.
Wow. Makes sense. There's a lot of work.
Yeah, right. But I just love
how... It did work.
I do love how open he is with his protocols. You know, he gives you the blueprint, as he calls it, on how he tackles each of these things.
Well, he doesn't need to sell them because he's already a multi-millionaire, 100-millionaire.
No, he's definitely selling stuff, for sure. I'm pretty sure on the end of this post he said, I'm formulating a topical that will be available. Yeah.
There you go. All right, then just buy Bryan's.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I don't know if it's out yet. I'll have a look.
Awesome.
So, Paul, your favourite section of the podcast, we get to talk about supplements.
Excellent. What do you have for me today?
So it's come up in a couple of different episodes. Green tea and its links with longevity. How does it work?
So green tea will work on a lot of mechanisms which will prolong life. But the big one to mention is that it's high in antioxidants. And antioxidants will scavenge free radicals, which free radicals try and pull electrons out of cells on the body. And when it does that, it damages DNA. And if we're damaging DNA, we're breaking the blueprint for how a cell's supposed to be, and it just genuinely speeds up aging. If you damage DNA, you've got not the right architectural and mechanical plans for the cells, and that's how we die, is damaged DNA or disease or accident. So by getting more antioxidants in to neutralize these free radicals, you're reducing DNA damage. So that's number one. It's also been shown to reduce blood pressure, help with cardiovascular health. It also will promote weight loss. So green tea will naturally contain some healthy caffeine and some theanine, so it's nice and calming at the same time. So it's not a hectic energy like you can get from coffee or other stimulants. But it also has an antioxidant in there called epigallocatechin gallate, so the ECGC. And that has been shown to stop the production of the enzyme which breaks down adrenaline and noradrenaline. So when we have caffeine, it hits the adrenal glands and produces adrenaline and noradrenaline. And these are largely fat burning. So they give you energy. So they're burning fat by doing that. If the ECGC then stops the breakdown of adrenaline and noradrenaline and naturally prolongs it in the system, we can burn more fat. And if we can burn more fat, we can suffer from less obesity and we can prolong life that way. So it works on a lot of different mechanisms. It's probably important to say, though, a study showed that you needed up to 5 cups a day to get a proven longevity benefit. So I wouldn't be drinking it too late at night either because of the caffeine content. You can recycle tea bags, so just keep putting hot water in there. But I would say a couple of tea bags a day, drink 5 cups, and you're getting your water in too, which is great. The other side of the study said, well, also, what was the green tea replacing in the control group? Were the other people that weren't drinking 5 cups of green tea drinking more soft drinks, sugar drinks? Was it replaced? So, the study might be a little bit, skewed, but we do know it's high in antioxidants. It's causing DNA integrity and stopping the degradation. It's helping with weight loss and obesity and helping with blood pressure, cardiovascular health. So all of those will lead to longevity. Green tea is a great ingredient. Yeah,
right. And so you can take it, as green tea, 5 cups a day, potentially up to 5 cups a day. And then obviously you can get it capsulated and in different kind of powdered drinks.
Yeah, so one of the more popular supplements in Australia that brought green tea right to the forefront was X50.
Yeah.
And even though it's not 20 cups worth of caffeine of green tea, they've got the equivalent of 20 cups of green tea in antioxidants. So it's very high in ECGC, and that will cause a fantastic effect. So I love green tea X50. It's tasty. It encourages you to drink more water. It's cheap, comes in a sachet form. It's just a really great way to get the benefits of green tea. Plus, they add resveratrol in there, which will
longevity
protect
as well.
DNA from degradation. So
you could have one of those a day too.
Just one of those a day would be more than enough.
And you're right, it tastes amazing.
Yeah, so I love the peach.
I was going to say, what's your favourite flavour?
But apple blackcurrant's also you can't taste any green tea out of that as well. Now, we need to mention we're not getting anything from Green Tea X50 for saying this. I've just come to my head and I thought, hey, this is an easy way to do it. Yeah. And it's all natural.
I like the tropical flavour.
I had that the other day. Yeah,
but,
very nice.
But I think I have different taste, right?
Oh, definitely.
Because I like the Jaffa protein bars and no one else likes them. So,
well, you know, Jaffa's all right. It's not the best.
But tropical's good, right?
Well, the tropical protein bar's good. Why are we talking about protein bars?
No,
anyway,
tropical X50 is good.
I know, but I'm just going to the protein bars. But yeah, tropical is really nice. They do an original, which if you really love green tea, you can go for that. But I don't know why you would when you've got these other amazing flavours that are all natural.
Natural as well.
No artificial colours, flavours or sweeteners with added resveratrol. It's just a great product. And I always say, forget about all that. The extra water that it encourages people to drink, it's worth it just by itself. Again, I don't know, did you plan to talk about Green Tea X50? No. We just love the product.
So coming to the end of the episode, I like to talk about amazing people who are doing incredible stuff later in life. And I think, you know, it would be crazy for us to do this and not talk about the GOAT.
He really, we should have talked about him in the first episode. He's that much of the, well, that's not the right word. He's
incredible.
He's incredible.
David Attenborough.
David Attenborough. Everyone loves David Attenborough.
Yeah. I think maybe the reason that I hadn't brought him up in a previous episode was because I was sort of reserving the section thinking, oh, you know, it's for people that have achieved big things later in life. And he's been obviously sort of in the spotlight for a massive part of his life since he was 26 actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he's now 98.
So he's almost a centurion.
Yeah, he's so close. And I think, you know, it's so often that we're told, you know, 70, 75, retire, you know, take a load off, slow down, ease up, you know, and he just blows me away. Like I've got sort of all of his things that he's done here since he's turned 70. And the list is extensive and he just isn't slowing down.
Can you give us some of that list?
Yeah, I'll go through some of the key points, but it's almost like he has like this urgency because obviously he's so passionate about our planet and he's so passionate about the environment. And it's like he's got this urgency now of like he wants to get this out there his lifetime. He wants to make a difference.
Make a difference, conservation. He wants to save the planet for future generations.
So, I mean, when he was 74, he narrated State of the Planet. He narrated The Blue Planet when he was 75. He received a BAFTA fellowship when he was 76. Planet Earth when he was 80. Life in Cold Blood when he was 82. First Life when he was 84. Frozen Planet when he was 85. When he was 90, he narrated Planet Earth 2. And then we watched one of his ones recently, Blue Planet 2, which he narrated when he was 91.
But he's also often going out to these areas as well. So he's not just narrating them. He is going and seeing it and being out in that environment.
Yeah, that's it. He's still on that big adventure.
Yeah.
You know, he was 95. This is another one that we watched recently, A Life on Our Planet. And that was all about I think this was really like a love letter to the world, right? For him, it was his witness statement looking back on his life and highlighting humanity's impact on our nature. And yeah, you could tell that one was a bit different. I've listened to the book as well, and it's like he really wanted to reflect on his journey and how the world has changed since he was young.
I hope he's got more coming out.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, he's 98 now. And he's still advocating. So he's been going around promoting conservation, working on media projects. He narrated in 2022, so he narrated Frozen Planet 2. So he's still out there, like he's still giving it everything.
Unreal.
And I had a couple of quotes from him, which I thought were really nice. You know, I always like to finish on a quote from these legends. The first one is, he said, "It seems to me that the natural world is the greatest source of excitement, the greatest source of visual beauty, the greatest source of intellectual interest. It is the greatest source of so much in life that makes life worth living."
Wonderful.
Isn't that nice? And then obviously we're always interested with these longevity legends as to their approach to life and what they think keeps them young. And so he said, "I think curiosity is a key to a long and happy life. Curiosity keeps you interested, and being interested keeps you young at heart."
Stay curious.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you can tell that that's probably one of his life mottos.
Yeah, I think that's it. He's curious, and I think earlier in the episode we were talking about purpose and who is there with a greater plan de vida than David Attenborough.
And that comes off him in waves. And it's a good testament to creating a long life because he's 98 and still going.
Yeah, that's it. He's still providing so much value and doing so much good. So, yeah, just what an honour to have him in this world. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of The Age Hack, a longevity lifestyle podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Be sure to check out The Age Hack online. And if you want to see more snippets and chat about the podcast, you can check us out on IG at @theagehack_pod. Next week is going to be a good one. We are chatting about the world's oldest skydiver.
Awesome. Have you skydived before?
No, but you have, right?
A couple of times.
Yeah. And also talking about a new world-class longevity study coming out of Harvard.
Ooh, exciting. We'll catch you then.
See you then.